Loyalty don't exist. You see what the going on. Niggas gonna have to grip up and get ready for part two. I'm gonna make good Denzel to this West Side Rollin Denzel to this.
Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're gonna be discussing the death of an up-and-coming rapper known as Killa Snoova from the Rollin 40s Crips, who was gunned down in 2024. Now Lamont Jones, aka Killa Snuva, also known as KS, was born in South Central Los Angeles in 1986. He and his siblings will be raised in the sections controlled by the Rollin 40s. Now KS will be raised in a musically inclined family who attended their grandfather's church. KS was a multi-talented kid who can play the drums, the organ, keyboard, and piano. Now his brother, who was only 1 year younger, named Christian, he would also teach him how to play the same instruments. Now Christian also goes by T-Fly and would take part in the choir as a singer. And he would sing along with his grandmother, who was a gospel singer. Now KS family did their best to try to keep him and his siblings out the streets by keeping them busy in church activities like the choir and playing instruments. But it's a very tough thing when you grew up in this type of environment that KS and his family grew up in. Now eventually KS will begin running the streets and start hanging out on the block and getting into trouble. Now by his teen years, KS will be put on to the Rollin 40s Dark Side clique. Now some Dark Side members attended Manual Arts High School, but KS would attend Crenshaw High School. Now like most 40 members, he would get into fights with rivals while at school and out on the streets. Now it's said that KS was known for being ready to squabble with anybody at any time and not running from anything. Now it's alleged that early on, he would be in a shootout with some Hoovers, and sometime afterwards, he would be given the nickname Killa Snuva. Over the years, KS would start hustling and slanging in the streets to make money. Now early on, things would be going well for him, but eventually, in 2006 in January, KS will be arrested for being in possession of cocaine with the intent to sell. Now KS was looking at 5 years in prison, but he would accept a plea deal and he would only be sentenced to a 3-year prison sentence. Now over the next 2 years, KS will be really inspired to focus on his music after seeing his brother T-Fly start making moves in the music industry. KS was always known to encourage his brother and known to brag about his brother's singing ability. But not only was KS inspired by his younger brother, but by his homie from the Rollin 60s, Young Nip. Now at this time, Nipsey had just started blowing up in the streets. And in 2011, KS would meet up with Nipsey, who he would brag about his brother T-Fly telling Nip that he needed to work with him. And not long after that, Nipsey and T-Fly would head to the studio and start working on music.
Fly was cracking.
You already know, neighborhood Nip.
Hey, KS, what's happening?
Like, buh.
Yeah, we in here.
Now eventually Nip and T-Fly would drop Hate It or Love It for Nip's Crenshaw mixtape. But T-Fly's career wasn't the only one starting to take off. In 2013, KS will be featured on DJ Mustard's mixtape called Catch Up on a song called Banned from the Gang, which featured YG, RJ, and Nipsey.
It's killing, you know I won't change up. Raise around the real drug dealers and bangers.
But only months after, in August of 2013, a war would kick off between the 60s and the 40s after a 60s member shot 2 Rollin 40 Crips and killing 1. Now with this happening, KS really had to stay on his toes. And not only did he have to worry about the Hoovers and other rivals, but now he had to watch his back from members from the 60s. Now even with that relationship that he had with Nip, it was still dangerous to be outside at this time. But in the midst of all his drama, his brother T-Fly's music career would really start to take off. Now KS being an older brother, he was proud to watch his young brother grow and blossom. And around this same time, KS would drop his own mixtape called Molly Water, which would feature his brother, YG, RJ, and others.
So what's the deal? Tell me what have you? I give a deed and I hit the avenue.
But in July 2016, KS would find himself in trouble yet again with the law, but this time for vandalism. Now he would take a plea deal, but he will be sentenced to 6 months in county. Now by 2017, KS would start to work on his music and focus on getting back into the studio. Eventually, KS would link up with his homie Nip once again, who at the time was working on a Victory Lap album. Now for 5 days straight, KS would head to the studio with Nip and watch Nip create 15 songs for that album. Now his little bro T-Fly would also be featured on Nip's album on a song called Keys to the City. But the summer of 2018, KS would lose a very close homeboy from the turf named Tiny Hardhead. Now, Hardhead was someone that KS considered not only a homie, but a brother who he looked out for. Now, while pursuing his rap career, he would still have a few run-ins here and there with the law from time to time, but nothing too serious. But death will make an appearance yet again in KS's life. On April of 2019, KS will get the news that his homie, Nip, was killed. Now, Nipsey's death would hurt KS very deep because KS and T-Fly had a really close relationship with Nip at that time. But his death would spark a fire within KS.
It's crazy too, cause I talked to Nip. You know, the game is just a part of it. It's like a sport. Like Nip told me, like I did it. I went through the same shit. You feel me? You're not gonna go through it until you choose to do what you're gonna do. You gotta make your decision on what you wanna do. Killer.
But music wasn't the only thing that KS solely focused on. His family still came first and above everything, from his kids to his siblings to his mother and grandmother. Now in 2021, gang violence will hit close to home once again for KS. Now this time it will be his young homie, young Gino. Just like Tiny Hardhead, Gino was real close to KS, so this would cut him very deep. But only a short few months later, KS would lose his uncle Calvin. Now with all this pain that KS was going through in the year 2021, he made sure that he attended church with his family because he knew that that was the one thing that kept him grounded, especially during hard times. Now over the next few years, KS will continue to focus on building his brand and taking care of his family. But in 2024, sadly, death will come knocking. On September 8th at around 2 p.m., KS was out and about and decided to stop at the Metro gas station on Martin Luther King Boulevard. Now while there, a man in the Ford Explorer would pull up, hop out, and approach KS. Now KS and this man would start to exchange words, when out of nowhere, the man put out a handgun and opened fire. Now KS would be struck once in the chest, and immediately afterwards, this man would hop back into his truck and flee the scene. Now witnesses would call police, who would arrive shortly along with the EMTs, who would transport KS to the hospital. But sadly, at around 3 p.m., Lamont Jones, aka KS, will be pronounced dead at the age of 38. Now witnesses would describe the suspect as a black male in his 40s. Now the shooting was 100% gang related, but the rumors would start to spread that it was somebody from BPS, but that was never confirmed. But regardless, KS' death was a big loss for the Rollin 40s, and his family would hold his funeral at their church. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.